How you start each morning can absolutely set the tone for the rest of your day. And many people find mornings really, really stressful. They've got their kids to get ready. They've got all kinds of things to do in the house before they get to work. They've got emails to send, whatever it might be. And I found in my 20 years experience as a medical doctor that if I can help my patients make some small changes each morning, it can have profound effects on, their negative thoughts, their moods, their stress, their anxiety. It can help them be more productive. It can help them feel more motivated. It can also help them feel happier and more content. So in this video, what I want to do is share with you some of the things that have worked really, really well with my patients. And my hope is that they work really well for you too. It's thought that about 90% of what a medical doctor like me sees in any given day is in some way related to stress. But that's a remarkable statistic. Stress affects every single organ system in the body. It can have an impact on so many different systems. And actually, at the moment, we are living in incredibly stressful times. I want to start off by telling you about one of my patients. Right, she was a 44-year-old lady. She was a lawyer. She was married and she had 3 kids. Now, she would come in to see me with really bad headaches. Now, I saw her. I thought that these were migraines. And she had tried from previous doctors in the past, lots of different migraine pills. And they might work a little bit, but she didn't like the side effects and she didn't really like to take them. And as I was getting to know her, it was really clear to me that stress, chronic unmanaged stress in her life was absolutely playing a role in her headaches. I couldn't say that stress was the only cause of her headaches, but I absolutely knew that stress was playing a key role. So I suggested various things to her, and she said to me, Dr. Chatterjee, look, yoga, that meditation, that ain't my thing. I haven't got time for that. I've got a busy job. I've got to get my kids ready. And I thought, okay, no problem. One thing I've learned in all my years of seeing patients is that you've got to meet someone where they're at. You can't just force them and say, you must do this. You have to help them find what's going to work for them. And we went through a number of options, and she said, I don't have time. I said, okay, what do you do first thing in the morning? And she said, well, it doesn't matter what's going on. If my kids are fighting, if they're not getting ready for school, whatever it is, I go downstairs and I make myself a cup of tea. And I thought, okay. I said, what do you do when you make your cup of tea? She goes, well, nothing really. I just sort of jump onto my phone. I might look at social media. I might send some work emails. I said, okay, would you be interested in doing something different whilst you're having your cup of tea? She said, like what? I said, how about journaling? And she said, what's journaling? So I explained, journaling is this, it's the process where you write down various thoughts. It could be that you write down how you're feeling. It could be that you write down your anxieties. It could be that you write down the 3 most important things that you want to get done in that day. Whatever it is, it's just a way of taking the noise in your mind and actually downloading it onto paper. Now, she looked a little bit skeptical, and I said, look, why don't we try this? For the next week, each morning, when you have your cup of tea, you're going to have a journal and write down some of your thoughts. And she agreed to do that. So she went away. She came back to see me a few weeks later. And I said, how are you getting on? She said, Dr. Chatterjee, I don't know, but I feel different. She found that the act of giving herself 5 minutes every morning to do a practice of mindfulness, of journaling, time for herself, irrespective of what was going on around her, made a massive difference. She found her stress levels were lower. She was calmer with her children. She was more productive at work. And it led to what I call a ripple effect, right? So within a few days, she started to go out for a walk at lunchtime from her office in a way that she never used to before. She always used to think, I don't have time. I'm going to work through at my desk. And within a few weeks, the severity of her headaches had gone down by under 50%. And 4 months later, she was barely getting any headaches at all. So that one small change, which for her was in the morning, had a ripple effect, which impacted, yes, her headaches, but also her relationships with her children, relationships with her husband, but also her productivity at work. So I just want to start off by sharing that case study with you because, yes, she had headaches. And yes, she chose to journal whilst having a cup of tea. But it doesn't mean you have to do that. And it doesn't mean that you can only utilize that strategy when it comes to headaches. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And in this video, I want to share with you what I consider are the three most important components of any morning routine. I call them the 3 M's. Now, at this point, I want to be really clear. It doesn't have to be done in the morning. Yes, in my experience, with most people, this works better first thing in the morning. But if for whatever reason that doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it in the morning. But I think this is a very useful framework to think about a practice of self-care that you can bring into your life that will absolutely have benefits for lowering stress, lowering anxiety, helping you feel calm and more content, make you feel more motivated. It will also help you be a lot more productive. So the first M of the 3 M's is mindfulness. Right, the first thing I want people to think about doing is some form of mindfulness practice. Now, mindfulness is a broad term, right? I don't think we need to get too super focused, right? We can think about anything that helps us to be a little bit more mindful. So that could be breath work, right? There's all kinds of breathing practices out there. We focus on our breath. We intentionally breathe with a certain rhythm and a certain cadence, and that can absolutely change our physiology. It can change how stressed we feel. Because one thing a lot of us don't realize is that breathing is information. It's information for our bodies. So if we're feeling stressed out, let's say you're looking at your email inbox and you're feeling a bit stressed out, you've got some deadlines to meet, right? You'll find that your breathing starts to change. You'll probably start to breathe a little bit faster, a little bit more shallow, and a little bit more from your chest rather than your abdomen. Right? And the way you're breathing, that's information. So because you're breathing faster and more shallow, you're sending signals to your brain that you are under stress. The world around you may not be safe, right? And that in turn signals a message from your brain back to your body to keep breathing faster. So you get stuck in this vicious loop. And there's a study actually which showed that 80% of office workers actually change how they breathe when looking at email. Now, what I love about breathing is that you can actually hack that straight away. If you consciously slow down your breath and change the way you breathe, instead of sending stress signals up to your brain, you can send calm signals instead. So there's all kinds of breathing practices. One of my favorite ones is what I call the 3-4-5 breath. It's really simple. You breathe in for 3, you hold for 4, and you breathe out for 5. And one of those breaths will take you 12 seconds. In 1 minute, you can get 5 of them in. And I challenge you to try that. Yes, as part of this morning routine, which I'm going to be sharing with you. But at any time when you feel stressed in your life or anxious, try that 3-4-5 breath and pay attention to how you feel afterwards. Because for many of my patients, they found it completely transformative. Right, so the 3-4-5 breath is one kind of breathing practice. But there's many others. There's something that Andrew Weil popularized called the 4-7-8 breath, where you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and you breathe out for 8. There's also something called box breathing, which a lot of people say the US Navy SEALs use to help them de-stress and to help them focus and concentrate better. And the idea is really simple. You pick a number, let's say 4, right? You would breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and hold for 4. And then you repeat it. Now, if 4 is too much and you're unable to do that, that's completely okay. Just move it down to 3 or even 2. Let's not put obstacles up in the way from doing really helpful practices, right? Let's make them super simple so that we can start to engage in them. There's many others. You may have a preferred one that you'd like to use, but it doesn't really matter which one you use. So let's just back up a minute. I'm talking about the first M of the 3 M's. The first M is mindfulness. Can you do a practice of mindfulness? That could be breathing, but it doesn't have to be. It could be meditation, right? Maybe you've never meditated before, and actually an app like Calm or Headspace will be a brilliant way for you to start. It guides you through what you have to do. It could be a really beautiful and calm way to start each day. Or it may be that you've meditated for a while, or you used to meditate and you've fallen out of the practice. And I completely understand. That was my life for many years as well. I've now got to the stage where I generally will meditate on most mornings because I've done it for a bit. I've experienced the benefits. I stopped again. I got a bit lazy and I noticed those problems come back. And, Every time you do that, you do a habit, you forget again. You do a habit, you forget again. That's not failure. That's education. That's learning, right? So don't beat yourself up if that's you. Use this as an opportunity to remind yourself that when we meditate regularly, we do feel calmer. We do become more productive. We do become more motivated. Many people find that meditation helps them feel less anxious. Not everyone, but many people. So as part of this mindfulness practice, you could do breath work. You could do meditation. You can even try something really simple like making a hot drink, let's say a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Let's say you're making a cup of tea, right? You can put the tea bag in your mug, boil the kettle, watch the steam come out of the kettle, start pouring it in, watch the color of the water change as it blends with the tea bag. As you pour the milk in, if you take milk, watch the color change, and then sit in silence for 5 minutes and drink it. Instead of distracting yourself with Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what you should be doing. I'm trying to share with you that a practice of mindfulness as part of a self-care routine, as part of a morning routine, is really, really helpful. But you've got to find the one that works for you. Remember the patient I mentioned right at the start of this video, that middle-aged lady who was struggling with migraines, and I felt stress was a big driver of the frequency and the severity of her headaches. What does she do? She journaled with a hot drink. I mean, you could argue that's a practice of mindfulness. She was being attentive with herself and how she was feeling and the thoughts in her mind that she was putting down onto paper. Right? So I really like to broaden out these definitions so you can find the right one for you. So the first thing I want you to do is pick one of those mindfulness practices or pick a different one and say, yeah, I think I could do that as my first M of this 3M routine. But choose one that fits you and your lifestyle. The second M of this 3M routine is movement. Right, so I want you to think about a practice of movement that you could do as part of your morning routine. And we don't need to be prescriptive. Right, what movement do you enjoy doing? That's probably the best place to start. Why is movement so important? Well, we know movement is really important for our physical health, but it's also important for our mental health and our emotional health, because when we move our bodies, we change how we feel. In fact, one of the fastest ways to change your internal state, let's say you feel tired, let's say you're procrastinating, let's say you're feeling lazy, you don't want to do anything, move your body and you will absolutely feel differently. Movement changes your hormones. It changes the structure of your brain. Movement helps to increase something that we call BDNF in our brain, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is like miracle growth for the nerve cells in your brain. Movement is not really about burning calories. It's about what it does to your body, your mind, and your soul. It's such a great way to start each day is with a small practice of movement. And I want to be really clear here. I'm talking about a morning routine. I'm not talking about you devoting 2 hours every morning to this routine. If you have 2 hours, wonderful. But most of us don't. Most of my patients don't. I certainly don't. And very shortly, I'm going to share with you the story of one of my patients who did a 5-minute morning routine, just 5 minutes. And she got all of my 3 M's in those 5 minutes. And she experienced profound benefits for her health and her well-being. So what kind of movement should we be thinking about? Well, it can be anything. It could be press-ups, if you enjoy doing press-ups. It could be 20 squats. It could be a yoga sequence that you like, Pilates. It could be that you put on one of your favorite tunes on your phone or on your music player and dance. But some way of moving your body each morning is so, so powerful. It changes how you feel. It changes who you are. It changes the trajectory of your day. On those days where you have moved, you will find that you make different decisions, and I would argue better decisions, than on those days where you felt, I don't have time to move, I can't be bothered today. And I do understand, sometimes we don't feel like it. So very shortly, I'm going to share with you some really simple tips that you can use to make it much more likely that you are going to move each morning. So let me share with you what I do each morning. Because as a doctor, it's something I take very seriously, that I don't want to ask my patients in general to do anything that I've not done myself. So I ask them to do these 3 M's. I teach them how they can fit it into their life, but I also do it myself. And on the days where I don't do my morning routine, I always feel it later. Always. On those days where I wake up and I feel, you know what, I don't have time today, I just better crack on with my emails or get on with my day, I notice it later. I'm more reactive. I'm less productive. I'm not as good a doctor. I'm not as good a husband or a father compared to those days when I do find time to do it. Now, I've been working on this for a while, so mine does actually take about 30 minutes now. But I want to be really clear. If you do not feel you have 30 minutes in the morning, that is completely okay. 5 minutes will get you some huge benefits. So what do I do for my first M? So I wake up. Now, I wake up early, typically around 5 a.m., and I'll come straight downstairs in my pajamas. The first thing I will do is a breathing practice. Now, I used to do the 3-4-5 breath, but at the moment, I'm working on a new breathwork technique that I've learned about recently, and I'm really enjoying it. Again, this is a framework. You can change what you do within the framework, but the framework is there to guide you. It's not there to enslave you and tell you, you must do this, you have to do it this way. No, use it as a framework and find something that fits that framework that works for you and your life. So I started off with breath work, and currently that takes me about 10 minutes. And that breath work is a form of meditation as well. So really, my first M takes me 10 minutes. Then what do? Second thing I do is I come from my living room and I go into my kitchen. And in my kitchen, I'll make myself some coffee. Now, I really enjoy drinking coffee, particularly in the morning, by myself, when my wife and my children are sleeping. It's time for me to sit, be alone with my thoughts, time for me to really nourish myself. And I really, really value that time. And I've realized how important it is for me. But I'm very particular with how I make coffee. So I'll weigh out my coffee, put it in a French press, and then I'll pour the boiling water in. Then I'll put a timer on for about 5 minutes. Now, in those 5 minutes, whilst my coffee is brewing, I'll have a workout. And that's the secret to my success, is I understand behavior change. You see, there's a couple of rules you need to know about, which I'll share with you in just a moment, on how you can make it much more likely that any new behavior you do is going to turn into a habit. And that's exactly what I do around that second M for me, movement. So I do a 5-minute workout. Now, I used to do a body weight workout. In fact, there is a video on YouTube. If you Google my name and 5-minute kitchen workout, you will see the body weight workout that I used to do for years. Now, I sometimes change it up. I have got a kettlebell in my kitchen. I've got a dumbbell in my kitchen. But the point is, for those 5 minutes, instead of going on Instagram, instead of going on YouTube, instead of going on my emails, I work out, and I work out in my pajamas. Now, let me break that down for you. Why is that strategy so helpful for me? And why is it that I barely missed a day of working out, at least when it comes to this 5-minute workouts, in over 3 years? Now, it's not because I've got more motivation than you. It really isn't, I promise. It's because I understand some of the key rules of human behavior. Rule number 1 is you have to make any behavior that you want to turn into a habit easy. Now, why do you have to make it easy? You got to make it easy because if you don't, you are overly relying on motivation. And when your motivation is high, sure, say you'll do a 30-minute workout, you'll do it. But on those days that you feel tired, you're feeling a bit lazy, you're procrastinating, you've had a tough day at work or a poor night's sleep, if the behavior you want to do is really hard to do, you're not going to do it because your motivation won't be there. And that's a big problem that many of us face when we try and change our behavior. We overly rely on motivation, but motivation never lasts. Motivation goes up and motivation comes down. In the research, they call it the motivation wave. So what you need to do is plan for when your motivation is at its lowest. That's why you make the behavior easy. So for me, I have a 5-minute workout every morning. It used to be body weight, which was so easy because I didn't need to buy any equipment. I also don't need to get changed. I do it in my pajamas. And I used to do the same body weight workout every day. Why? Sure, there's benefit from changing it around. But the problem with changing it around is that you introduce choice. And with that choice comes procrastination. So for months, I wouldn't think about it. It was like, okay, put the coffee on, start the timer, and I go around my circuit of press-ups, squats, lunges, dips, all that stuff. I didn't need to think. Now that it's locked in, I can change it about. But for many months, I never changed it. And that's why it got locked in as a behavior. Very much like you toothbrushing every day, twice a day. You don't change it up from day to day. You don't go, oh, I brushed my teeth yesterday. I'm not going to do that today. Maybe I'll floss today. Maybe I'll just rinse today. No, the reason, or one of the reasons toothbrushing is a habit that you don't need to think about is because you've made it easy. You don't need to choose each day what you're doing. And it happens in the same time and the same place. Very much like my movement parts of my morning routine. The second reason why I've barely missed a day in over 3 years now of doing this 5-minute kitchen workout each morning is because I've applied what I call the second rule of behavior change. Right? So rule number 1 was make it easy. It's only 5 minutes to do. I don't need to buy any equipment. I don't need to get changed. Rule number 2 is where you put that behavior in your day. Right? Every single behavior we do in life needs a trigger. Right? So what could that trigger be? Well, let's say you've got to have a meeting at work with one of your colleagues. Right? What trigger do you need? Well, it could be that you just remember, oh, I said at 1 p.m. I was going to go to this meeting. Okay, that works. It just happens to be the most unreliable form of trigger. Okay? Another trigger might be a post-it note that you put on your fridge or a notification on your phone reminding you, oh, I must go and get to this meeting. Okay, great. That's much better than just relying on your memory. But the research suggests that the very best trigger for any behavior, particularly these health behaviors that I'm talking about now, is to stick on that new behavior onto an existing habit. So by default, if it's a habit, it's something you are doing automatically without much conscious thought, right? I make coffee every morning. That is a habit. I don't need a reminder on my phone. I don't need my PA to phone me and say, hey, Rangan, remember to make your coffee. No, it's something that I do. Therefore, if I stick on my 5-minute workout onto that coffee routine, I'm much more likely to do it. So these days, I don't even think about it. I make coffee. As the coffee brews, I do my workouts. Just as when you go to your bathroom in the evening to get ready for the night, you pick up your toothbrush, you brush your teeth. It's that automatic. That's why you keep doing it. And that's what I want to help you realize you can also do with your lifestyle habits. If you're enjoying this video, I think you are really going to enjoy my new book, Happy Minds, Happy Life, The New Science of Mental Wellbeing. I've been a practicing doctor for over 20 years now, and I can tell you there's a very strong link between happiness and health. Happier people are healthier and they live longer. Now, happiness is actually a trainable skill that all of us can get better at once we know what to work on. And that's what my book is about. All the simple, free tools that you can use in your life to help you feel calmer, more content, more in control, yes, happier, but also healthier. You can order the book right now. All you have to do is click the link in the description box below. Now, just for a moment, think about something that's not health. Think about business. Right? Businesses understand the rules of human behavior, and they use those rules to encourage you to buy more or use their products more. I think about Amazon. When Amazon moved to one-click ordering a few years ago, estimates are that their profits went up by over $300 million a year. Just from that one move, going to one-click ordering. So why would that be? Well, think about it. Let's say 10 years ago, you wanted to make a purchase. What would you have to do? You'd have to click on everything you wanted, click onto the next screen, type in your card details, go to the next screen, check that it was okay, go to the next one, place order, confirm order. Multiple steps you would have to take before you would actually place that order. Now, of course, it depends on where you live in the world, but if you have one-click ordering where you are, before you know it now, you've placed an order and it's coming the next day. It's that quick. Amazon understands that if you remove the friction, you remove the steps that you have to take, people are going to buy more. So Amazon do that. Netflix, YouTube, why do they roll one video into the next video? it's not out of the goodness of their own heart. It's because they know. Before you realize it's midnight, I need to go to bed and get up tomorrow at 6 a.m. for work, you're straight into the next video. You're straight into the next episode of the box set, and then you're hooked. Right? So these companies are using the rules of human behavior to help their businesses. And I'm not criticizing that. I think they should be doing that. But what I'm saying is when it comes to health, what I've seen in 20 years now seeing patients is that people don't apply those same principles. When it comes to our health, we think it's got to be huge. A workout can't be 5 minutes. It has to be 1 hour, 5 times a week at the gym. I have to buy special clothes. I have to change up the workout every day. Now, I'm not saying there's never any validity to changing up your workout. Of course there is, depending on what you're doing. But let's take it back to basics. Let's get ingrained in our life these basic habits that are going to help us. And that second part of this morning routine, the 3 M's, the second M is movement. So I want you to think about what small practice of movement could you do every morning that you enjoy? And it could just be like you like doing the sun salutation sequence in yoga. Great. It could be you just like doing some hamstring stretches or some hip rolls to limber up in the morning. It doesn't matter what it is. Just find what works for you. So what do I do after my breath work and after my 5-minute kitchen workout? Well, I do my third M, right? This is the final piece of the framework. And this M is for mindset. So I think this is really important. How we set our mind and our intentions at the start of the day can have a huge impact on how we feel and how we act for the entirety of the day. But you don't have to do all 3 M's. Even if you just committed to a mindfulness practice each morning or a bit of movement every morning and you followed those rules of behavior change to make it more likely you're going to do it, your life is going to change. Right? You will feel less stressed, you will feel less anxious, and you're probably going to be more productive and feel more motivated in your life. But if you want the complete framework, and I recommend you really consider this, you want to do something where you work on your mindset. And what do? Remember, I've done the breath work, I've made my coffee, and during the coffee brewing process, I've done my 5-minute workouts. So I finished the workout, I've got a nice hot cup of coffee that I brewed to my taste waiting for me. So I take that cup of coffee and I sit down and I'll usually read. So I've got a few books in my living room, maybe 5 that are kicking around, and I'll just pick one of them. Right? So I just read a few pages on one day. Other days I'll read a whole chapter. But the point is, these aren't negative books. They're not anxiety-inducing books. They're uplifting books. They're sometimes philosophical books. They're sometimes health books. They're books that make me want to be a better person. They lift me up. They make me think about my life. And they're generally things that make me want to be a better parent, a better husband, a better doctor. And they help me feel calmer. They help me feel more content. And they help me experience more joy in my life. So what those books are going to be unique to you. Right? It's not for me to say, you must read this book. No, you're going to have different preferences to me. So just have a think. Are there some books that you've read in the past or books that you want to read that you could make sure you've got around so that whenever you feel like it, you can just pick it up and read it? That's another thing about behavior change, right? Anything you want to do, you've got to make it easy, right? We mentioned that. One way you make it easy is by keeping it around. If I went into my living room and the book wasn't there and there was no book there that I wanted to read, do you know what the temptation would be? With my coffee, you know what? The book's in a different room. I don't know where it is. Let me just pull up my phone. I'll quickly check Instagram. And I've done that. I have. And I've learned from it. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing that. But if you want to really set your intention at the start of the day, do something for you that helps you in every aspect of your life. I'd really encourage you to think about something that makes mindset easy. Now, another way you might want to do mindset is with affirmations. Affirmations are short, powerful statements in the present tense. Right? Some people are fans of affirmations. Some people say, oh, they're not for me. Hey, you know what? That's pretty much the same with all the health interventions. Nothing tends to work for everyone. I find affirmations really useful. Now, I'm a father. I've got 2 young kids in the house. Now, I try and get up early so I can do my morning routine before my kids are up. But sometimes my son or my daughter will know that daddy's up. They'll come down whilst I'm in the middle of my third M. And the old me used to, I think, feel quite frustrated. Oh man, I need this time to myself. And I'd create this kind of disempowering story in my head. But I realized that just wasn't helping me. My kids wanted to see me. They wanted to see what I'm up to. So now when that happens, I love it. I embrace it and go, okay, cool. What can I do with the kids? Either we'll read something together or we'll do affirmations together. So I sometimes will sit with my daughter, we'll hold hands and we'll say, I'm happy, I'm calm, I'm stress-free. I'm happy, I'm calm, I'm stress-free. And we'll do that, I don't know, for a minute, maybe 10 times, maybe 20 times. And at the end of it, my daughter's got a big smile on her face. I've got a big smile on my face. And that feeling of presence and calm continues. It's not just there. That changes how I am over breakfast. That changes how I am as a doctor when seeing patients or how I interact with my wife. So that third M is mindset, something that puts you in a positive frame of mind. Now, I just want to address something on affirmations. For some people, they are life-changing. And there is science supporting this. You know, there's a study showing that undergraduate students who did affirmations before their exams perform better. Now, there's other studies which show affirmations don't seem to work that well for some people. Okay, I'm fine with that, right? Give it a go. See what happens. If you're skeptical, my challenge to you is try them for 7 days and just see how you feel. If you feel no different, fine. Say they're probably not for me, or I'm not going to listen to what that guy says. I'm okay with that. But I really would encourage you to give it a go and see how that makes you feel. Now, I want to tell you about another patient of mine, because remember I said earlier that this morning routine does not need to take that long. I think if you've got 10 or 15 minutes, wonderful. You can do 5 minutes on each, right? I've now altered my life around so that I can do about 30 minutes each morning. Not every morning, but usually, right? But it's taken me a few years to build up to that. One of my patients did only 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you about her. So I think she was in her 30s. She had really bad eczema, which is a skin condition. And she'd seen various doctors. She had various creams. Sometimes they would help, sometimes they wouldn't. Again, I strongly felt that stress, chronic unmanaged stress in her life, was having a huge impact on her skin. I think it was contributing to her flares. And again, she was a single mum, right? She had 2 kids, I think, and she was working super hard. And of course, initially she was like, Doc, I don't have time for a morning routine. I've just got stuff to do. I said, okay, fine. Let me try and help you figure out what we might be able to do. And it took a bit of time. I always spend time with my patients to try and understand them. I always make sure that they know that I really care and I'm really trying to find a solution that's going to work for them. If they tell me they don't want to do something, I respect that. And I say, okay, fine. What else might we consider? Now, after all that period of getting to know her, experimenting, we came up with a 5-minute routine that worked for her. And I managed to help her figure out a morning routine that included all of those 3 M's: mindfulness, movement, and mindset. And it only took her 5 minutes. So what did she do? Well, she would wake up and for 1 minute, she would do this 3-4-5 breath that I taught her, that I shared with you at the start of this video. Breathe in for 3, hold for 4, breathe out for 5. So she did 5 of those breaths and it took her 1 minute. Then for the next 2 minutes, she went to the second M of these 3 M's, which is movements. She loved yoga and she learned a sequence that she could do that only took her 2 minutes. She did 2 minutes of yoga. And then for the final 2 minutes of her morning routine, she did the third M, mindset. She would say affirmations, right? So that's all she did. 5 minutes. And what was the impact? Well, what she experienced over the coming days and weeks was that 5-minute morning routine set the tone for the rest of her day. Right? She felt less stress, less anxious. She was calmer with her children. And that feeling of calm continued for a lot of the day. She found that she was less reactive. right? She wasn't blowing up with people at work or getting frustrated at emails in a way that she used to. And over the coming weeks, her skin started to get better, significantly better. Her eczema didn't go away completely, but all those flare ups, the things that really made her life challenging and difficult, they reduced so much. So her eczema became really manageable, and had very little impact on her life. And it all started with that 5-minute morning routine. That is why I'm so passionate about teaching my patients, and as many people as I can really, how impactful it can be. Now, I want to reiterate something I said at the start of this video. You don't have to do this in the morning. Yes, I find it much more useful for me to do it in the morning. Most of my patients find it much easier to do regularly when they do it in the morning before the demands of life start to get in the way, emails, work commitments, family commitments. But I do understand that the mornings are not for everyone. And if that's you, please don't see this as a prescription saying you have to do this in the morning. Use this 3M framework as a self-care practice that you can do at some point in the day. You know, one of my patients, she did do it in the morning, but she didn't do it first thing. She would do it after she dropped her kids at school and before she started work. That was when she found she had time to do it. So my question to you is, where in your day might you be able to fit in this self-care routine that we know can have a huge impact on stress, anxiety, mood, productivity, concentration, and feelings of calm? So I now want to share with you the reason why I think routines like this 3M routine can be so beneficial for so many people and with so many different conditions. And it comes down to what I call micro stress doses. Remember, at the start of this video, I said that around 90% of what a medical doctor like me sees in any given day is in some way related to stress. Stress can impact every organ system in the body. Stress can raise your blood pressure. It can make you feel more anxious. It can deplete your energy. It can cause gut problems. It can lead to low libido. It can exacerbate hormonal problems. As you heard with some of those case studies, it can make skin problems worse. It can make headaches and migraines worse, right? Stress affects so many of the things that commonly come into my practice as a doctor. But what does stress mean? Right, there's many ways you can think about that, and I'm going to make another video on stress very shortly on this YouTube channel. But for the purpose of this video, I want to teach you about what I call micro stress doses, or MSDs. So what is a micro stress dose? Well, the micro stress dose is a little hit of stress that in isolation, you can bounce off no problems. The problem isn't the MSDs in isolation, it's when they mount up one after the other. So all of us have what I call a personal stress threshold. And this varies from person to person. Your threshold is going to be different from mine. And our threshold may well change at different parts in our life, depending on what we've got going on. But I want you to think about it like this. If this is your stress threshold, this is when you start to have problems in life, right? So let's say you wake up feeling pretty calm, right? You're far away from your stress thresholds. And then you start to accumulate what I call these micro stress doses, or MSDs. Little by little, these MSDs start to accumulate and you get closer and closer to your stress threshold. And here's the problem. When you get to your stress threshold, that's when things start to go wrong. That's when an email from our colleague really irritates us. That's when we fall out with our partner, or have a row with our children, or our neck goes into spasm, or our back starts to go. It's when we've hit our stress threshold. And people often think it was the last thing that caused it. You know, at 3 p.m., you get an email from your boss that you don't like. We think it was the email that made us blow up and react and lose our cool. Now, sure, the email contributed, but it wasn't actually that email. It was the buildup of micro stress doses throughout the day that got you close to your threshold. So anything we can do to keep ourselves away from our threshold makes us feel more resilient. Now, here's a typical morning that I've seen with many of my patients, right? They've stayed up late the night before. because work's stressful. They want to unwind, so they're watching TV or videos till late. Okay, fine. So let's say they go to bed at midnight and their alarm goes off at 6 a.m., right? So they're in bed. The phone alarm goes off at 6 a.m. and jolts them out of their deep sleep. That's what I call micro stress dose number 1, or MSD number 1, right? They've woken up from a deep sleep. They have a look at the time. They go, I need a few more minutes. So they press snooze, doze off again. 6 or 7 minutes later, the alarm goes off again, MSD number 2. Then they pick up the phone, have a look, go into their email inbox. Oh man, there's 3 work emails I didn't reply to yesterday. I better do them now. MSD number 3. Then they might jump onto Facebook or Instagram and someone's left a negative comment. MSD number 4. They then go and scroll the news and see some worrying news about what's going on in the world. MSD number 5. Then they might realize, oh man, I've just been looking at the phone for so long. I'm going to be late for work. I need to get out of bed and get ready. MSD number 6. And this continues on and on and on. So many of my patients end up exposing themselves to maybe 15 MSDs in the first hour of the day before they've even left the house. And what does that mean? That means that for that particular patient or for that particular individual, they are going out into their day, into the world, very, very close to their stress threshold. Certainly a lot closer to their stress threshold than they might ideally want to have been. What does that mean? It means that it won't take much in the day to tip them over. You don't have much resilience. You have no headroom left. So anything you can do to reduce how many MSDs you're being exposed to is going to result in you being a lot further away from your stress threshold, which means you're going to feel calmer, right? You're going to be less stressed. You're going to be more engaged and present in your life. You're going to be a better employee or employer, right? You're going to be more productive at work and you're going to be more resilient. It's going to take a really, really stressful day to build up so that you hit your threshold. So when you engage in a morning routine like the one I've been suggesting, the 3 M's, mindfulness, movement, and mindset, what you'll find is that you are much further away from your stress threshold. You'll have reduced how many MSDs you've been exposed to in the morning. Not only that, right, you've gone the other way. Not only have you actually reduced the incoming, you've actually made yourself more resilient. You've moved yourself the other way. You've actually lengthened the distance between where you currently are and your stress threshold and where you're going to be after that morning routine. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. As I said at the top, 90% of what we see as doctors in any given day is in some way related to stress. Stress rarely takes a day off in our lives. So I don't think we can take a day off managing stress. So I want to be really, really clear here. I think most people, if not all of us, would benefit from an intentional morning routine. As I've described in this video, the benefits can be profound in all aspects of our life. I've seen it with my patients. I've seen it with family members and friends. I've also experienced it myself. On the days where I engage in my morning routine, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, and I'm a better doctor. I've seen the same with my patients. On the days they engage, their experience of their day and really their experience of their life starts to change for the better. So what are you going to do? Are you going to hear this information and go, yeah, that was interesting, I like it, and then crack on with your day? Or do you feel inspired to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't like the way life is for me now. Maybe I want to start to see some improvements in my health. Maybe I want more energy. Maybe I don't want to feel so indifferent and lazy every morning. Well, I promise this can help you. It doesn't need to cost any money. Right, it really doesn't. The breathing practices that I mentioned, completely free of charge. Bodyweight workouts or some stretches, free of charge. Reading some positive pages in a book or doing some affirmations, pretty much free of charge. Sure, you might have to buy a book, but you may, I'm guessing, already have some books at home. Or you might be able to borrow some books which help. So I don't want cost to be an obstacle. Right, I've been a doctor in many different practices, in many different areas. I've treated affluent patients, but I've also treated patients who don't have much. But it doesn't matter which patient I'm dealing with, I've always found these morning routines to be helpful. So I hope you found that video interesting. I hope it helps you sort of think about how you can bring that 3M routine into your own life. And two final words I want to say to you is, number one, doing something is better than nothing. Right? Maybe these 3Ms feel too much for you at the moment. If that's the case, that's okay. Start where you're at. Pick 1M. Pick the one that you like. Maybe it was movement. You think, I'm going to start each day with 10 squats. Great. Right? Start there. You don't have to do it all. Maybe you build up to that. Or maybe you just like the idea of sitting in silence with your coffee and reading some positive pages in the morning rather than the news or social media. Great. I promise you, if you try this for 7 days, every day, and then pay attention to how you feel afterwards, right then, but also pay attention to how you feel for the rest of the day, I'm pretty sure you're going to feel a difference. Ask the people around you, what difference do they see in you? Because sometimes we don't see it, but your partner might say, hey, babe, you just a lot calmer, less reactive, more present. Those are the kind of things that are going to help motivate you to keep going and to do more. The second point I wanted to make right at the end of this video is that one of the huge benefits that something like this does for you is that you show yourself that you're worth it. Right? You're basically showing yourself that it doesn't matter what's going on in the world, how busy work gets, how many family commitments I have, how many chores I have to do at home. But if you can carve out 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes for yourself each day, you show yourself that, hey, you know what? I'm worth it. Doesn't matter what's going on. I still manage to prioritize time for myself. And day after day, week after week, month after month, these small things make a difference. I promise. I've been a doctor for over 20 years. I've been using this with patients for so many years. I've experienced the benefits myself, and I really want to inspire you to at least give it a go. If anything's unclear or you have any questions, do leave them in the comments below. Let me know what you thought. Was this video useful? What kind of topics do you want me to cover in the future? I really would love to hear from you. And wherever you start, whatever you decide to do, good luck and let me know how you get on. If you enjoyed that video on morning routines, I think you are really going to enjoy this one on how you can improve your sleep and boost your energy.
Digestive issues, mental focus issues, depression, anxiety is closely associated with disruptions in circadian clock function. The foundational practice that I truly believe every person should do every day is